Hello there everyone, thanks for tuning into my channel once again. And this fly, today I'm going to tell you another fly out of my book, Bergman's Trout. And it's a dry fly this time around. And I was scrolling down through the patterns and I found these patterns called the spiders. And this one is simply called the black spider. And there's also 2 or 3 other variations of the fly. I chose to do the black one for you this time. A very simple tie. So we'll get this guide device here, a fresh hook in, and we'll get started. And they're tied fairly large, these flies, so I'm using a size 10 dry fly hook here. We'll get that locked down the vise. It's mustad 94840, standard dry, and some danvilles 6/0 black for my thread here. So what you want to do is start your thread about 2 or 3 eye lengths behind the eye this time around. And we'll get a thread base going back like we always do to the bend here. Okay, we'll snip off our tag end. And come back a little ways yet. There we go. Okay, now the tail is simply some long hackle fibers off a dry fly hackle. And I'm using what I found works good for this spider fly was just Chinese Indian neck here, dry fly neck. It's not like a Metz or whiting. It's not an expensive cape, but it works great for tying these spiders. So if you have one of these, it'll work fine. So I'm just going to pull off some long fibers here for the tail, and you want to keep it kind of sparse, but in between, not too heavy, not too light. And I want to tie it a little longer than the hook. The whole hook, so it's quite a long tail. We'll come up and pinch around on that. A couple pinch wraps, make sure it's in there where we want it. Then I'm going to wrap all that excess down here towards the front. Okay, but we don't want to go past where we want to start our hackles, so there's our tail. Now for the body, is simply each one of these spider patterns call for a gold tinsel body, so I got some gold and silver here, so we'll tie the gold side down so that shows for us. So I'll tie that in by this little point I cut on the tinsel here. Alrighty, and we'll just begin to wrap that gold tinsel back, touching wraps, and then we'll come forward after we get to our tail here. Okay, then we'll just come around. Check that on the other side, make sure it's where I want it. Actually want it to come back a little bit farther. Alrighty, now we'll proceed forward until we get to where we want to tie off here. Okay, and that's right there, so I'm going to come up around, catch that in here, like so. And what I like to do a lot of times with my flat tinsel here is I'm going to wrap forward on it a few wraps, and then I'd like to fold it back to make sure that's locked in, and that way it's not going to slip out on you when you're tying or when you catch some fish on it. And we'll trim that off nice and close. There we go. Okay, now our next step is to get a smooth thread base here, and I'm going to tie in our hackle, and you just use one hackle instead of 2, just one. This one's about a size, I think 8 or 6 on the gauge, and this is a size 10 hook, so you want to go quite large. And I also, a little tip, I may have told you this before, when you go to wrap dry fly hackles, is to peel a little bit of the fibers off one side, the side that's going to be wrapping down. That way your hackles won't tend to shoot off to towards the tail. They'll stay pretty straight, so just keep that in mind. And we'll tie that on right on top here where we want our hackle to start. And I'm going to wrap back on the stem here, trim him out, and we're going to make a nice smooth base for our hackle. Alrighty, that should be pretty good right there. And as far as the amount of turns, it's usually 3 or 4 turns is sufficient for these spider flies, I would say. The pattern doesn't seem to have too heavily hackled, it's not a heavily hackled fly, so alright. begin to wrap our hackle here. So there's 1, 2, 3. You don't put a whole lot of hackle on these guys. And we'll come around, tie that tip off. A couple wraps behind it. Then I'm going to also wrap back on it a couple wraps. Make sure he's locked in there good. And I'll come in real easy like and snip that tip out. There we go. Alrighty. Now, all it's left to do is build a little head on this guy. Don't need to make too many wraps. Alrighty. And I'll just straighten my hackle back out again here. And there we have it, folks. Another size 10 black spider. And that's the way it was tied in the Bergman's Trout book. Alrighty, so I'm just going to bring my whip finish in here. And do a little whip finish, 4 or 5 turns. Alrighty. There we go. Snug down on that, snip off the excess thread here. Okay. Alrighty, so then I'm just going to take a little drop of my resin on the thread wraps. Not a whole lot, just enough to secure them good. Alrighty. And we'll just go around. Make sure we got a little on each side of the thread wraps there. Alright, there we go. Just give him a quick little shot of light here. UV torch, carry him up. And there we have it. And that's the black spider. And a very simple tie indeed, so, and I'm pretty sure it'll catch fish. And I'm probably going to tie the, might do another one of these in the near future. It also can be tied with the gray, it's called the gray spider, and also the badger spider as well, and they all have the gold body. So, hope you enjoyed this fly, and you can tie a bunch of these up and give them a whirl. I'll see if I can get a close up without my focus frigging up this time here. There we go. So like always, I appreciate you all watching, and if you'd like to see more flies in the future, hit that subscribe button. Really appreciate that as well. And if you have any comments, put them down below. I'd like to read your comments. And until next time, everyone, happy tying out there. We shall see you all again soon, and so long for now, folks.